All right. So for practice tonight, 2 blocks, a blanket, and a strap. Anything that you could use that will work as a strap. I am like on the very, 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 very last outside dredges of a cold. So I'm still just like a little like coffee and throaty. All right. So tonight's practice and really most of the practices in February are going to be really foundational yin practices. And some of the reason for that is I'm getting ready to lead the next series of trainings and immersions at Yoga Home. So I'm like deep in content and material and anatomy and things like that. And always, no matter where we are in our studentship, it's a good idea to routinely revisit some of the foundational information and basics because as we grow as students, we might forget about that foundational information and we might find that remembering it just deepen and solidifies our practice even more. And so for tonight's practice, what we're going to be working with is one of the tenets of yin yoga, which is, we come into the pose, we come in at an appropriate depth, and then we resolve to remain still and hold the pose for a period of time, right? For an extended period of time. And one of the things I'm sure that you've heard me say over the course of practicing with me is that there's nothing we have to do once we're in the pose, right? The pose is really passive, but really we allow time and gravity to be the thing that kind of takes us deeper into our experience, whether that's physiologically, like the tension or the sensation we feel in our physical form, or time and gravity to take us deeper into our own inner experience. And so, what we're going to work with tonight specifically is gravity. What I'm going to do after we get through the initial kind of opening and grounding period is the sequence is really going to be the same pose over and over again, but with a different orientation. So, changing the way our body is in space. So that way, gravity, we get to really feel how gravity has an impact on different body parts because we've changed our orientation, right? And of course, because our practice on the mat is a mirror, a reflection, a metaphor for our practice off the mat, this gives us an opportunity to really kind of reflect upon or consider that if we change the way we move through the world, if we change the way we move through our life, right, we might be granted a different perspective. Hmm. So neat, right? Neat. So let's start. Again, if you're just hopping on, 2 blocks, a blanket, and a strap. And we're going to start in crocodile pose. So go ahead, come down onto your belly. Stack your hands to elbows so your forearms are stacked, and then drop your head down on your forearms. Take your legs as wide as is comfortable for you. I often find that taking my legs wider than my mat just helps me ground my pelvis and legs a little bit more, but that might not be the case for you. And then you have the opportunity to turn the heels in, toes out. If that feels like it's too much sensation or there's like any pinching for your lower back, just point the toes away. If this stance in your arms feels like too much for your shoulders, you could slide your arms apart a little bit and stack hand on hand instead of forearm on forearm. Okay. And then I like to rock the pelvis a little, squeeze and release the butt, just to bring some awareness into the pelvis. And then release the pelvis. Let the pelvis be heavy. Let the belly be heavy. And you're going to take a long breath in and a long breath out. And to start, I just want to give you a minute here to settle on your own, to get quiet on your own, to start that shift from whatever's been going on into your practice. So there's nothing to do right now other than turn your attention to your body and to your breath and let the body get heavy into the ground. And with your head in this position, you might notice that the breath becomes more audible, that you can hear the breath. And also that naturally you can feel the breath probably, somewhere through the front of the body because the floor is acting as resistance. The breath can become a really good anchor for us in practice. And what I mean by anchor is an object of focus, an object of attention, a place to land our mind so that way our mind starts to quiet down as well. And for the next couple cycles of breath, if you can, I want you to direct the breath into the belly. Breathe down into the belly via the nose. So you feel that area of your body fill, inflate, and deflate like a balloon. And you'll feel the breath in the belly. You'll feel the breath in the lower back. But this audible breath, this concentrated breath, this really felt breath, right? You can feel the body breathing. And then for the next 3 cycles, just feeling really purposeful about when you breathe in, feel the belly button press down into the earth. And when you breathe out with control, the belly deflates and the belly button pulls back into the body just naturally, and the low back relaxes down into the body. This is umbilical breath. You breathe in, feel the belly button connect to earth. Low back fills and lifts, and then exhale, release. And the belly and the low back move into the body and down into the ground. And one more time like that. And belly to earth on the inhale. Exhale, releasing, dropping down, emptying all the way. From here, slide your legs together, press up onto your hands and knees. Just slide it back to child's pose for a moment. And then roll yourself up to Sit on your heels or sit cross-legged, and the invitation is to gather the hands over the heart. Sit up nice and tall. And bow the chin to the chest, the head to the heart, to the wisdom of the heart, wisdom of the body. And then in the same way, can you breathe down into the belly via the nose? Breath as an anchor, a resource to pull you into your body, to pull you into present time, and to keep you here, to anchor you in the practice. And because the practice is going to be working with gravity this evening, looking at how we move the body in different ways, in different orientation to gravity. Again, the invitation is for it to also be a reflection, a metaphor, a mirror for the different ways in our life where perhaps we can consider, be curious about moving in a different way, moving through the world in a different way. So that way we can have a shift, change, or opening in perspective. Take a deep breath. Okay, fantastic. We're going to come into heart bench first just to open up the spine, and then we'll get into the sequence of poses that are going to be really similar to one another. But let's open the spine first. So first block behind you, length of the spine, so that way when you recline back, it lands behind the heart. Second block up on its highest height, so it lands right behind the center back of the head. Let's start with the legs bent tonight. Arms down by the sides, palms up. And we won't be here for as long as we normally are in heart bench. Normally I hold you here for like 5 to 10 minutes. We're just going to be here for about 3 minutes. Again, it's an opportunity to open up the spine and get into the lungs and the breath a little bit more. And you can keep your legs bent or drop the knees open, bring the legs into butterfly. So we just start to work into the inner thighs, the hips, and the groin a little bit, which will be our primary focus for practice tonight. Take a deep breath in and a long breath out. And then for those first couple cycles of breath, again, just breathe into the belly via the nose, a couple cycles to help you land here. And to help you get oriented to what's going on in your body tonight, what's going on in your mind, to get oriented around your practice, right? And the container of your practice. So as best as you can, just continuing that practice of untethering from the oh so many things we have going on in our life. And I say that, but I often find a lot of clarity in practice. Like there's times where it just gives me the space to kind of work through something, but it happens in a little bit more of an organic way or spontaneous way, as opposed to chasing or initiating or trying to fix something and getting like really wrapped in it. So I just trust that landing my body, opening my body, that a lot of times some clarity or insight will come. So yes, we anchor the mind, and it's normal for the mind to wander, and it's a discernment that happens between you and you alone around when to like stay with some intuitive thought and when to reel the mind back in because you're down a rabbit hole that is not helpful. And let your head be heavy, let the eyes soften, let the jaw unhinge, and really let your upper back melt around the edges of the block. And take 3 more breaths here. Full breath in and a long breath out. Okay, bring the feet flat, roll over onto your side just so you can clear those blocks out of the way. And then right away, just land back on the back with nothing beneath you. And just pause there. You could keep the legs bent or straighten them out. Just feel that nice echo and release through the spine. All right, grab a hold of your strap. If you want to have a blanket underneath the head, you certainly could. And let's bring the strap underneath the ball of your left foot first. Left foot first. Okay, left leg up to the sky. Hold the strap in a way that is easy. And then really let the left leg get straight. So even if that means lowering the leg a bit so the pelvis stays even and you're not into your deepest hamstring stretch. And take a full breath in and out. And so, right, we're working with gravity tonight, that piece of the practice, that tenet of the practice that says we're going to stay for time, we're going to stay for an appropriate amount of time, and we're really going to let time and gravity be the thing that brings us deeper into the pose. So you just notice how gravity feels on the body right now. You might have a keen sense of it. You might not really have a whole lot of sense of it at all. I promise that you will throughout the practice in the different shapes that we take. But notice just how your body feels in space right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take the strap into the left hand. You're going to open the leg out to the left. So open the leg out to the left, hold the strap in a way that's appropriate. Like I like to choke up on the strap a little bit. Right hip stays down, right? That's a good benchmark. And always the breath is a benchmark that you can still breathe relatively easily, deep. Right? The breath is not sporadic or rapid. That's usually a sign that you've gone too deep into the pose. So now this main shape here, this external hip rotation, right, leg out to the side, is going to be the primary shape that we take tonight throughout practice. But we're going to orient the body in different ways in relationship to gravity. So you'll be able to see through the course of the practice how gravity impacts where you feel the stretch, the sensation, the compression, etc. So this is really our first benchmark here. Notice where you feel this pose now. Where you feel it, what it feels like. Really try to pinpoint the different parts of the body. The obvious parts of the body, and perhaps the less obvious parts. Usually after about a minute or two or so, you do start feeling that impact of gravity on like a shape like this. The sensation starting to increase, I imagine somewhere along the left leg, perhaps most likely the inner thigh and the groin. The force of gravity, the weight of gravity becoming more obvious the longer we stay here. All right, just take another breath. Try to use the strap in your arm to bring the leg back to center. Bend the knee, take the foot out of the strap, just lengthen the left leg out. And again, now just feel the imprint of that pose. How the leg feels now that it is free of the strap, not weighted down by gravity, and the difference from the left side to the right side. All right, let's go over to the other side. So bring the strap underneath the ball of the right. Might be radically different side to side, so don't force it. Hold the strap in a way that feels as easy as possible so you're not taking too much strain in your shoulders or your neck. Okay, again, we just start straight for a minute to just let the leg, the hamstring, the hips acclimate to being here. Take a breath. And let the body breathe. All right, then take the straps into the right hand. Take the leg out to the right. Again, left hip stays down. That's a good barometer of how far out the leg should go. And again, you can lower the leg like to get it straighter. Take a full breath in and out. And just notice now. Notice this side versus the last side, not in a good or bad way, just noticing. You might notice similar sensation, you might notice different sensation. The pose might be landing in a different part of the body, but notice what you feel, where you feel it, what it feels like. Notice over the course of time how that sensation increases. Perhaps gravity blanketing itself over the inside of the right leg, feeling as if it's bearing down on it. Relax your feet, your face. All right, and then take a full breath in and out. Use the strap, bring the leg back to center. Might feel a little achy. Take the foot out of the strap, just lay the right leg down. And notice what you feel in the release. All right, then if it would feel good to move the body around a little bit, stretch or squeeze in or roll the hands and the feet. There's no right or wrong way. It might feel good to lift the pelvis up. All right, and then bring yourself up to seated. We're going to come onto all fours. So if you like a blanket underneath the knees, you could do that. Again, we're going to take a similar shape, but a different orientation to gravity. So from hands and knees, you could have your blocks nearby. You may need them, maybe not. From hands and knees, we'll work in the left leg now. Just bring the left leg straight out to the side. So if you can, the left foot is on the same track as the right knee. That might not be possible. Your leg might be behind that line, and that's fine. Find a way to land the foot that the foot can be flat. So for some of us, that's the toes turned in. Some of us, that's the toes turned out. And we're coming into Waterbug pose. So the first way to deepen the sensation in this pose is to come down onto your elbows, on blocks, or on the ground. Right? Other way to deepen this pose is start to send your hips back to your heel. Like that same action as if you were moving to child's pose. You might not get all the way back there. That's fine. You might find that now you want to use the props underneath you a little bit more as you slide back to have some support under the arms or the torso. Excuse me, back foot can absolutely be, the top of the foot can be flat. It can also be tucked under. Tucked under is probably going to give you some more sensation in that foot or ankle, but it also might feel more stable. So you get to choose there. Take an intentional round of breath in and out. Right, and now, just notice now where you feel the sensation, what it feels like. Again, try to be really specific. Notice the sensation in the places that's maybe not so obvious. Like for me here, I actually feel a lot of sensation in my right hip. And just notice what changes, what shifts, what opens, what intensifies over time, and where you feel the impact of gravity the most here. Do you feel gravity in the hips? Do you feel gravity in the leg? Do you feel gravity in the spine? Maybe you feel gravity, like the head feels like it's getting really heavy. Notice how the pose And the sensation of the pose impacts the breath, impacts the mind, right? How all these things are connected. How the pose is maybe now starting to radiate into different areas, different joints. Some of that may be from time, some of that may be from gravity. Okay, take a breath. And then release. Move nice and slow back to tabletop first. Pause there. And then if there's any movement the body wants to take to release that, feel free. And then let's go to the other side. So right leg out to the side. Again, maybe the foot can be in line with the knee. It's okay if it's not. Find a way to ground the foot. Again, it might be very different on this side. So take your time. You can change the orientation of your hands, your elbows, coming down lower to earth or blocks. You can change the orientation of your hips, sliding the hips back. You can change the orientation of your back foot. So the toes could be tucked under or the top of the foot could be flat till you find the appropriate amount of sensation here, right? Not too much, not too little. That Goldilocks sweet spot. Somewhere between a 4 and 7 if the sensation was like from 0 to 10. So you come into the pose at an appropriate depth and you stay for time. Resolve to remain still. And you let time and gravity be the tools that bring you deeper into your experience. Of course, the breath is a tool as well. So if you haven't taken intentional breath yet, take an intentional breath. Again, notice what you feel, where you feel it, what it feels like, how it changes, shifts, opens, dissolves over time. And as the sensation perhaps moves or shifts into different body parts, is it due to time? Is it due to gravity? Maybe it's due to scar tissue. Just right, like a lot of points to get curious about. Take a full breath. All right, nice and slow. Come on up. Go to all fours first and then just pause there as the tissue kind of reorganizes itself. And then any movement that just feels instinctive, intuitive. There's no wrong way to move here. Just do it slowly and gently. Okay, we're coming to seated next. So it's always a good idea to sit up on a blanket. And again, similar shape, different orientation to gravity. So let's take the left leg out into half straddle. The right leg folds in. The way that we're going to move through this one is just orienting the spine in a different way. So let's take a side bend here. So left hand to the leg or the ground, right arm up and overhead. Okay, of course you can use blocks to rest your hand, rest your elbows, rest the head. Top arm can really just be like relaxed. It could even lay on the head. And take a full breath in and out. And then you notice now. Notice what you feel, where you feel it, what it feels like. Again, try to be specific with your awareness. And can you maintain a steady breath? Do you feel any shifts in temperature, mood, energy, thought? You're going to take a breath here. We're going to keep the legs, just shift the spine and fold right down the middle of the legs. You can take your blocks with you and set them up accordingly. Let gravity kind of bear down on the spine and really bear down on the head. So if it's okay for your neck, you can really just let the head drop. So you don't have to exert any effort to hold the head up, which would be resisting gravity, right? Like go with gravity here. Feel how that force of gravity just becomes more obvious over time. Like all of the contents of your head could just kind of like dump out. Or like everything in the back of the head dumps into the front of the face. Let gravity, let the head, the brain, the skull just be like mush. Everything slack. Notice maybe there's a tendency, right? The tendency on forward folds is that the mind gets really quiet. I wonder if that has to do with gravity. Take a full breath in and out. And just bring your spine up. Keep the leg for a moment. Just bring the spine up. Keep the eyes closed if you can. Hold your attention inward. And just pause here after that long forward fold. All right, let's just go right to the other side. So right leg out, left leg folds in. We'll take it into the side bend first. So adjust, set yourself up accordingly with your props. Again, might be really different side to side. So don't force it. Just notice. You might know why it's different side to side. Some days it's obvious, maybe just the way that we've been sitting all day or the way we worked out or, anything. Some days we just notice that the body's different. There doesn't really need to be a reason. And we try to notice just for noticing's sake. Take an intentional breath. Take another full breath here. And then keep the legs, just shift the spine. So now you fold right down the middle of the legs. Round the spine, drop the head. And let gravity do its thing. Let the head drop, let the skull drop, let the face drop, let the brain drop. Notice how the pose impacts the body, the mind, the breath, the energy, the thoughts. Take a full cycle of breath. And again, nice and slow. Use your hands. Come on up. Keep the leg as it is. Just come to a neutral spine. Notice and feel the imprint, the echo of the pose now. Okay, let's fold that leg in. Let's come to butterfly position. So we did butterfly, maybe you did butterfly at the beginning of practice in heart bench. Of course, it's going to feel different now, right? Because we have a different orientation to gravity. You can pull the heels in, or you can bring the heels away from you, create as much space as you need. It's going to land differently along your legs and your knees, depending on where the heels are. So you choose, take a breath, chin to chest, start to round it forward. Use your props, support yourself. Props could be under the knees, under the thighs, they could be under the head. And again, even if you're supported, right, you can still let gravity do its thing, right? You're not resisting it. Muscular engagement resists gravity. Here, we are not muscularly engaging in this practice. Head, neck, and shoulders release as much as you comfortably can. Take a full breath. Come on up nice and slow. Pause at the top. And then go ahead, finally release the legs. I want to give you about a minute to move around, however the body wants to move. And we did 3 poses in a row there, so just kind of, however it would feel nice to release it. We'll eventually go to Shavasana, but I want you to find some gentle, nurturing ways to release that. And then when you feel complete, there's no rush to get there, because we're going to have a nice long Shavasana. Set yourself up for Shavasana. You're always welcome to slide any sort of props underneath the knees so the legs and the pelvis release. Of course, cover up if that is something that would feel good for you. For me, I always find a pose that does a lot of leg work because it's grounding to do leg work. It means I can oftentimes drop into like a little bit of a more settled Shavasana. So we'll play with that as well, but come into Shavasana, come into the shape, right? Remember, it's a shape. Get yourself situated and supported with the same amount of intentionality that you come into any other pose. Take any of your final movements or wiggles to then, right, land in the pose. Come into the pose. Stay in the pose. Take a full breath. And you might literally have a blanket over you, whether you have a blanket over you or not. Imagine that gravity is also a blanket laying over you, gently providing some weight, some support, so that the body can drop down, 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 down. You could also imagine that the earth is rising up to meet you, is rising up to hold you. The same way a block holds or supports us in other poses. And so you can really let your body bear down. Let the body be heavy, right? Let gravity do its thing. Let your bones get heavy. Heavy through the head, heavy through the shoulders, heavy through the upper back, heavy through the arms, heavy through the spine. Release through the belly, so the low back, the pelvis, the hips, buttocks, all heavy. Heavy in your thigh bones, heavy down the legs, heavy through the heels. And completely effortless. Breath is just continuous, quiet, and smooth. You let your body just rest. Shavasana. And then just notice yourself. Notice your body breathing. Notice how your body feels laying on the ground. Notice how your body feels in this pose, the imprint of the pose, really the imprint of the whole practice. We'll come out of it with the same intentionality we come out of any pose. So take a deeper breath in and out. And then let's start to release. Move the hands, move the feet, move the head. Eventually curling into fetal position on either side and just pausing there. And from seated, make your way back, from fetal, go ahead and make your way back up to seated. Sitting up tall, ground your palms down. And again, just pause here for a moment. Perhaps now, again, with all that leg work, just feeling a little more anchored in your seat and in the seat of yourself. Notice yourself now. And notice your perspective now. Anything that's shifted, changed, opened, revealed itself. And then this curiosity point around what if or what would happen, what would become possible if we just changed the way we were oriented to the world and the way that we walk through the world, opening ourselves to a different perspective, a different opinion, a different way of being. If we flipped a habit or a behavior on its head, right? If we changed our orientation, what becomes available? What noticing, what opening? And how we move our body on the mat has so much to teach us about how we move our body out in the world. And we'll gather the hands in front of the heart in a gesture of gratitude for the ability and opportunity to move our body, to think about our body, our breath, and our lives. Deep, deep gratitude. I'm grateful for anything else that has been revealed or remembered or that requires further inquiry. And we'll close with one more breath in together. And breath out. Namaste. Ooh, big yawn. Sleep well. Till next time.